trouble understanding you people sometimes. You all talk so funny.
There is a culture clash in this movie in that one of the villains is played by Samuel L. Jackson. He plays sort of sort of hip-hoppy, lisping billionaire.
Yeah.
And you helped create the story when you made the comic. Is he based, I know in the comic it's different, he's different, but is he based at all on Russell Simmons, who's also a hip-hop?
No, no, he was...
rich guy?
No, God, no. Yeah, I'll tell you, okay, this is a longer story and I'll try and make it short. But I thought, imagine if Steve Jobs was still alive and he suddenly went slightly crazy. The world might have a problem on its hands because, you know, he's a genius and he basically controls the world with, you know, financially and with technology. And then when we cast Sam, it was Sam's idea to do the lisp. I'd never heard of Russell Simmons, by the way. So I didn't know who he was. And then we did the first screening, test screening, and a lot of people said, "Oh, it's like Russell." And who's Russell Simmons? And I Googled him and pressed play, and I fell off my chair. I was like, I hope he has a sense of humor. Yeah. And also, Sam used to have a lisp, so Sam conquered his lisp. Sam Jackson lisp and he had both.
Had a lisp.
Yeah, he had a lisp and a stammer, which you hardly can believe. The guy can make the Yellow Pages sound eloquent, and he said to me, he said, "This character, I need a reason for why, if I'm the richest guy in the world, tech genius, why would he identifies a problem that does affect all of us. He talks about global warming and human beings are the virus on the Earth, and the Earth is the organism that's getting, and to get rid of a virus, you have a fever, which is global warming, to get rid of us. So he identified a problem which is realistic, but his solution is crazy and not worth doing, and I don't suggest it ever happens. But he said, why would I go from being a genius to a mad genius? And he said, by having a stammer and a stutter or a lisp, having some defect where people don't take him seriously, just annoyed him enough to go over and cross the Rubicon into madness.
Now, one other thought I had is, you know, I have a 12-year-old boy, and he wants to see this film really badly. It's very, very violent. I know you have 2 young kids, too. Where do you draw the line in this film? Would you take your kids to the film? Is it too violent for them? Do they have to be a little bit older? What do you think?
I find it really hard to answer that question.
Can I answer it?
If you want, but just to say, it's an R in this country, it's a 15 in the UK, and isn't it a 12 in Canada?
Something like that,
So,
yeah.
I mean, it's...
So Canadian kids are tougher?
I don't know.
No,
Matthew, you take it.
Yeah, no, I have a very strong opinion on this, which sometimes gets me in trouble, but when you see what these kids are playing on video games, I mean, they really are full on, and you know, The Walking Dead's hardly it's pretty graphic, and the violence in this movie was inspired predominantly by a thing called Tom and Jerry, where it's cartoon violence. If you look at Tom and Jerry, they turned violence into an art form. It was funny. It was, because look, we live in a violent world. Violence is part of life, and you can't really copy this violence. You can't take it seriously. It's very hard to make 1,000 people's heads explode in a ballet of choreography of Busby Berkeley style. You know, you cannot recreate this, and it's over the top and silly, really. And there's not much blood, and it's fun. It's violent, but it's done with a wink.
Okay, so the answer is my 12-year-old will probably see it unless my wife stops.
No, your 12-year-old shouldn't see it. No, your 12-year-old shouldn't see it, I think,
okay.
To be blunt.
Now, you're working at other films. You're producing The Fantastic Four.
I am.
How is that going?
I saw a movie called Chronicle. Have you seen Chronicle?
Yes.
Yeah, and I thought that Josh Trank did an incredible job. $11 million he made that for, and he, when Fox said let's remake, you know, Fan 4 is a fantastic property. You know, it's one of, I think, Stan Lee's masterpieces, and Josh Trank wanted to do it, so why not?
And you're playing editor Max Perkins in a coming film?
Yeah, it's called Genius. As far as I know, it's still called Genius. It's written by John Logan.
Who wrote Bond?
Who wrote Skyfall,
yeah.
And some of the Scorsese movies like Aviator. Yeah, it's about a literary relationship. It's a beautiful script. Jude Law plays the writer Thomas Wolfe, not to be confused with the Bonfire of the Vanities, Tom Wolfe.
Which I did, by the way.
No, I know, it's a common, but no, he's a writer from North Carolina who died in the 1930s. And it's 2 kinds of creativity. Maxwell Perkins was an extraordinary man who liked to keep in the shadows and facilitate the talent of other people, and he discovered that and nurtured the likes of Wolfe. He was also the man who discovered and nurtured Fitzgerald, and Hemingway and Marjorie Kinnan Rawlins and Marcia Davenport, and he discovered Here to Eternity, and I mean, and yet by his own will did not want the limelight. So this is a story of a quiet man who was the force behind the much more fevered energy of the creative person.
Any chance you'll do another Bridget Jones movie? Any talk of that? Have you had any serious discussion with people about Bridget Jones 3?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, this, because I mean, obviously, I don't know. Yes, maybe I'm dead in the book and that's the end of it, or you can do a prequel. I mean, there are all kinds of things you can do. But I'm very interested in this idea that because the narrative goes on in literary form, that we all have to believe that's it. If Tarantino can have a scene where Hitler gets killed in a movie theater, when we all know otherwise, then you can go and...
Would have been good if that was real, wouldn't
parallel,
it?
You would.
That would have been a much better...
It certainly would have been a better outcome.
Yeah.
No, but you can create a parallel universe if you want. I don't know how people would take that. I'm not saying any of this is going to happen. I'm just interested. Yeah, I would be open to it. I've always thought that if you were going to do a third, we should wait, and we have now. Rather than trying to exploit the first film, or the second, whatever.
Well, after this, and Hugh Grant and Man from U.N.C.L.E., it'll be great to see you guys warring again. Now you can actually fight.
Well, I know. I think Hugh might be at a disadvantage now.
This time, yeah, exactly.